Hey, what's up you guys? You're watching TeamAPS on GalacticGod's channel today. I'd like to thank him for letting me do this guest upload, and I do hope that by the end of the video you guys are interested enough to check out my channel and head on over and maybe subscribe. So, in today's video I'm going to be discussing 10 positive things in Yu-Gi-Oh! So the thing is, in Yu-Gi-Oh! A lot of people just find fault in everything. You know, there's always something to complain about. Prices or, broken decks. Konami doesn't listen, the ban list comes out late, this, that. But I think that sometimes it's a little bit better to just ignore all of the negativity and just reflect on some of the positive things that Konami does for this game and just about this game in general. So I've got 10. Let's go. The first is reprints. So, Yu-Gi-Oh, it's an expensive game, but I think that people overlook the fact that it's actually gotten pretty cheap in recent years. And this is largely due to the fact that Konami has been emphasizing reprints much more. In the past, when Upper Deck ran the game, and shortly after too, reprints were not really a common thing. Cards were very expensive and not all of them were guaranteed to be reprinted. Today though, we can be relatively sure that pretty much any expensive card will eventually get reprinted, usually within about a year of its release. We have things like Gold Series that come out every year, and also now we've got the Megatins, which do an incredible job of making expensive cards accessible to everybody. Literally, the last Megatins made Dracosack, Big Eye, Silent Honor Arc, and even little things like Felgrin and Wolfbark really accessible to everybody. And this year's Megatins are pretty much doing the same thing with things like Majesty's Fiend in them, and we're assuming something like Dante will probably be there too. So I really do think that people should look at the reprints as a great way to make this game cheaper and more accessible, and I really like them. The next positive thing about Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that more rogue decks are viable than ever before. I've actually made a video about this, about why it's a great time to be a rogue Yu-Gi-Oh! Player. There's so many viable tier 2 decks, World Superstars made, Chronomaly and Heraldic Beast viable, Blackwings again, but then we also have cool new things like Infernoids, Ultra Athletes, Fluffles, Super Heavy Samurai, all these cool rogue decks that have cool new concepts, Super Heavy Samurai and artifacts even, just stuff that hasn't really been looked at a lot, but it's really fun. There's a lot of diversity. There are a lot of low tier or rogue decks that you can pick up and experiment with and, push and even make competitive. And there have been times in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where that just simply isn't the case. As dominant as maybe the top tier decks like Necroz or Satellar Knights are, these low tier decks can actually steal games and matches from those decks if they aren't careful. And so I think that really now's a better time than ever to be kind of a rogue fun deck player in Yu-Gi-Oh! Another positive is that we're getting more exclusives that were previously exclusive to the OCG. We're getting them. Nodin is finally coming out, or well now it's Norden, and that was a card that we thought we might never get. We're also getting, the Red Dark Magician, the Arcana Dark Magician, in that new Yugi 3 deck pack that they haven't exactly formally named yet. And we're also just, it feels like, Konami is more and more willing to give us cards like Blaze Man and cards like the Toon support, the new Red Eye support, that they don't necessarily have to give us. And I think it's really cool because it's great for retro players who like Toons or Red Eyes and hope that they get more support. We're getting like the Timaeus Dragons, things like that. Dragons of Legend in general as a set is really cool, and we're also getting stuff like High Speed Riders. And so I just feel like, Konami's doing a great job of getting us a lot of these OCG exclusive cards, and I think that's just really cool and something that people often overlook. The next thing is that we get ban lists. I know a lot of people complain about ban lists or maybe how long it took for us to get the last one, but the fact of the matter is, Konami does use ban lists as a means of balancing this game. Perhaps the most recent one's a bit of an outlier, but we all know that in the end, Konami has this game's best interest at heart, probably. And so, it's worth noting that whenever there are problem decks, the ban list will be there to handle it. I think that it's only fair that, if Nodin gets out of hand, it will probably get hit. If the Chicken Race or Chicken Game decks get out of hand, I feel like it will eventually be addressed by Konami on the ban list. It is good that we have a ban list. I also think that it's great that we don't have to go through a block format like certain other TCGs where, old cards become literally unplayable and unvaluable. So instead we just get a ban list. I think that's really cool. Another positive is that we're actually getting a really exciting new Yu-Gi-Oh! Game very soon. Legacy of the Duelist on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Now some of you probably don't really care about Yu-Gi-Oh! games. But I think it's really cool because Legacy of the Duelist is actually letting you do sealed battle pack draft and relive like duels from the actual anime. Like you can beat Kaiba with Exodia based on the very first episode of like, you know, the English anime. I think that kind of stuff is really cool. Konami doesn't have to give us these games. And I feel like probably we'll eventually be getting like Tag Force, and all the handheld games are a lot of fun. So despite the fact that, you know, people tend to not like the video games, they're actually really fun games, and Konami is still releasing them. I think that's a really positive thing that a lot of people just fail to notice. It may not seem like it, but believe it or not, just 5-10 years ago, Yu-Gi-Oh events were small things. Before YCSs came around, when they were just Shonen Jump championships, they might only have, you know, maybe 100, 200, 300 at most people, and you know, maybe winning that was a big deal. But nowadays we have YCS events that have 1,000, 2,000 people even, and so I think it's really cool that Yu-Gi-Oh is now just bigger than ever. We get more releases, we get more people, we get more attention. So I think that, you know, just the fact that Yu-Gi-Oh is a bigger thing means that it's easier to find a community to play in wherever you live, and it's easier to go to events because there are more of them, and events are larger, which makes it a better experience for everybody. Another great thing is that Konami actually cares a little bit more about social media now. For a long time, Konami was a very silent company in regards to Yu-Gi-Oh! We pretty much just got our ban lists and that was about it. But now Konami announces products ahead of time. They have a social media presence, they have a Twitter account, they have a YouTube, they have a Facebook. Now granted, you know, you can't ask them, hey, what's gonna be on the ban list? But still, they do have social media. They do try to communicate a little bit more now, and I think that's really good. You know, you can check out their Twitter and their Facebook to find out about new products, and that's something they haven't really done before. So it's kind of a small step forward, but it is a really positive thing and a really big step for a company like them. The next thing is that we're getting some really cool new products that Konami's never really done before. We got the Chibi playmats, the Yugi, the Kaiba, the Joey Chibi playmats, and we're getting accompanying deck boxes really soon too. And I just think that that's really cool because Konami's never really done that. They've never actually had playmats that any old Joe can just pick up and buy. For a long time, to get your playmat, you kind of had to like win it at a sneak peek or a large event, or otherwise just buy one from a place like Ultra Pro or something like that. Playmats were not always accessible, believe it or not. And I know a lot of people don't really know or care about that, but these days, you know, you can get a playmat very easily. They even released the Noble Knight one in the Noble Knight set, but these new playmats only cost $15. That's a really great price. So you no longer have to go and top an event or try to make it to nationals just to get stuff. And the same goes for the deck boxes. You no longer have to necessarily buy an old deck box or try to win a regional to get one. You can now get a nice quality deck box anywhere at your local card shop. The next thing is that Arc 5 is actually pretty good. Now I know some of you could not give any less care about the anime, but for those of us who do like it, Arc 5 is really cool. I know a lot of people were not super thrilled with Zexal. I know 5Ds was really popular and GX was pretty popular too. But still, you know, Arc 5 is actually a really good anime. I know like some of my roommates have been watching it and they've been keeping up with the Japanese subs, and they say that it's really great, but I watched the first English dubbed version and the national stream and I really enjoyed it. I think Yuya is an enticing character and I like that they're kind of combining all of the summoning mechanics into one. Furthermore, we have a new Yu-Gi-Oh movie coming out next year. How hype is that? Have you seen the trailer? Like literally Yugi and Kaiba again? That is awesome. So, you know, even if you're not really into the anime, you gotta respect the fact that that's really cool for us retro Yu-Gi-Oh fans. And the 10th and final thing that's positive about Yu-Gi-Oh is that it's still alive. I think that's huge. For a lot of us, we didn't think that we'd still be playing Yu-Gi-Oh in 2015. And it's really showing no signs of slowing down. I mean, honestly, we get more releases now, we get more people now, as I've mentioned, but the fact that the game is still, you know, running strong, running healthy, we've got a new anime coming out, people are going to events, you know, you can find a scene everywhere, and the game is popular. I think that's just really awesome. I was always worried that, you know, Yu-Gi-Oh was kind of just a fad, a trend when I was in elementary school, something that, you know, people played, but after a while it would just fizzle. And so many card games do, so many things like, you know, Versus System and like Naruto and the Digimon card game, you know, like, and we've got like new stuff like Forces of Will that seems kind of interesting, but who knows how long that'll last. Yu-Gi-Oh has stood the test of time. The only other card games that can really say that is like Magic and Pokemon. And so the fact that Yu-Gi-Oh is still standing with the best of them is really cool. You know, I didn't necessarily think that Yu-Gi-Oh was a game that would be around this long, and I'm really happy to say that it still is. So those are 10 really positive things about Yu-Gi-Oh that I think a lot of people fail to notice when they're in the midst of complaining about Konami and ban lists and prices and this and that and short prints. So what are some positive things about Yu-Gi-Oh that you would like to point out? What are some good things that you think just go kind of under the radar in the midst of all the negativity? Because I think that, you know, people find fault with anything they can, and that extends to everything. That's not just a Yu-Gi-Oh thing. But I just do think it's really cool that, you know, Yu-Gi-Oh has these positive things about it. It's still around, you know, Konami is communicating more, they're releasing more, the game is bigger. So that concludes my discussion. Thanks again to GalacticGod for letting me feature this video on his channel. Remember to check out TeamAPS, check out my videos, maybe subscribe. And I do discussions like this all the time. I do deck profiles, duels, some pack openings, video gameplay. We're actually going to be playing Legacy of the Duelist when it comes out. We're going to do a Let's Play of that. And every month I give away free stuff. In July I'm giving away one of each of the 3 Yu-Gi-Oh! Chibi playmats. And in August I'm going to be doing another giveaway. So just check out my channel and you'll hear about that too. That's all though. Hope you enjoyed. Remember to leave your thoughts in the comments. I'll be checking them out. And subscribe to TeamAPS. Later, guys.